Because we're dealing with individuals,
Yeah.
we're also dealing with the businesses that they're trying to get jobs at,
Yeah.
the governments that are serving them,
Yeah.
and the universities that are teaching them.
Yeah.
And we can use the data that's generated and the skills that are being learned and that are in demand from all of these different stakeholders
Yeah.
to identify, what skills are needed for what roles in which
Yeah.
countries and who can serve them.
Hello and welcome to the Global Impact Summit. My name is Patrick Brothers, co-CEO of HolonIQ, and I'm here in Cairo, Egypt, with Mike Damiano, Director of National Education Initiatives at Coursera. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Patrick.
Could we start by learning a little bit more about yourself, your role, and Coursera's focus here in the Middle East and North Africa?
Sure, happy to, and thanks for having me. So I've been working in education technology for about 25 years. Started working with Apple Education back in '97, setting up the UK's first fully online school. From there, I started my own companies and also worked with some of the larger ed tech vendors, creating teams to go and sell into education, higher education especially. Joined Coursera in 2020, in March, just as lockdown was starting. I was hired because of the growth that we were seeing. We'd made Coursera available to every single education organization around the world because global education had shut down. And we saw a huge growth and potential for growth. So I was hired to build a team to deliver that into universities. So Coursera as a company, we're known as or originally known as a MOOC provider, massively open online course provider. That's what we started as 10 years ago. So we started with two professors out of Stanford University. They created the first fully online course, and that grew very quickly to, over the last 10 years, we're at about 110 million learners globally. We have about 8 million learners in MENA alone.
Wow.
In fact, I checked the numbers this morning. In Egypt, it's 2.1 million.
Wow.
So Egypt itself represents about a quarter of all the growth we have in this region. So we work we serve individual learners, but we also serve governments, companies, and universities, and that's the work that I'm focused on.
Very cool. As you think about the Middle East and North Africa, what are some of the unique opportunities and challenges that you see here in the region?
So huge potential. I think huge potential for change. There's a huge potential to invest in human capital. I think some countries have recognized that and have very structured and well-funded programs to invest in their human capital. Those countries that are less rich are trying to work out how they can do that. We have 80 of those 110-ish million learners, 80% of them are outside the US. That's one of the things that attracted me to Coursera in the first place. And there is huge growth in this region. Last quarter alone, we saw 500,000 new learners come to Coursera, just in this region. And that's the highest growth since Q2 2020, when global education was ceased.
Wow.
So we still see the growth. Those learners are coming to us to learn new skills to get jobs, mainly. We'll see a lot of growth in professional certificates, where you can gain entry-level roles in IT, data, science, so that from the likes of Google, IBM, Meta. And I think the challenge rests somewhat with how we can connect the private sector with governments and universities to create an environment that allows universities to innovate while still following or adhering to the national initiatives of that particular country.
That's really interesting. So in your capacity of national initiatives, which is clearly really linked, as you mentioned, to working with governments in the region, what are some examples where you're working around the region at a national level or focusing nationally? Well,
yeah, I do get to work on the national initiatives. I get to work on the big, exciting and complex stuff, which I love. We are working with the likes of FutureX and the National E-Learning Center in Saudi. And they've got a very well-structured and well-funded program to deliver online learning, not just from Coursera, but from other partners. But the one I'd like to mention actually is what we've been doing in Morocco, because I think it brings that combination of the private sector, government, and universities together. So last year, the government, the Ministry of Education of Morocco decided to switch from a 3-year degree system to a 4-year Anglo-Saxon degree system. So they needed to introduce a foundation year, a year zero, it's sometimes called. Now, in other countries, that's dealt with through employing very expensive on-campus year zero type programs.
Yeah.
They decided to do this through a hybrid mode. Some learning on campus with the universities, and some of the soft skills and the technical skills being delivered online by integrating Coursera. So under an MOU with the MOE, we've served something like 18 of the public universities there now to actually deliver this foundation year.
That's awesome. I love that about Coursera, bringing all these different stakeholders together in a really unique model.
It's really helpful because we're dealing with individuals.
Yeah.
We're also dealing with the businesses that they're trying to get jobs at, the governments that are serving them, and the universities that are teaching them.
Yeah.
And we can use the data that's generated and the skills that are being learned and that are in demand from all of these different stakeholders to identify, what skills are needed for what roles in which countries and who can serve them.
Yeah, it's really powerful. Finally, here at the summit, what trends are you hearing already or expecting to hear or hoping to hear specific to the region again?
I think this isn't just specific to the region, but I think the speed at which this region can change gives it an advantage in this area, and that's around micro-credentials. So that's the thing I've been thinking about leading up to the conference. Now, when I'm at conferences with government folk or universities, we talk a lot about micro-credentials. But given the audience here, I'm actually thinking more about what are some of the success strategies that edtech companies use and need to be able to serve this incredibly challenging but rewarding sector that we work in. It is really challenging to serve education. It's challenging to effectively serve higher education especially. And so, we've seen some companies fail because of those challenges. So what can I learn from companies that are being successful? And how does that approach need to differ country by country, region from region? So that's what I'm hoping.
Very cool. Thank you for joining us today, Mike. Really be watching closely Coursera's progress in the region. Thank you so much.
Great, and congratulations on everything you're doing and the trip and the ML so far as well.
Thanks, Mike.
Cheers.
Cheers.